When you type in Instagram algorithm, the first thing that comes up is...
Surprise!
Shock horror. Best practice is boring, okay? Do your own research, like test and learn.
There was this massive shift, and that was changing from chronological feeds into user affinity and prioritizing content.
Can I reset the Instagram algorithm?
Well, no.
No.
Short answer.
Hello and welcome back to Have You Heard, the social media podcast by us here at The Social Shepherd. My name is Zoe, I'm one of the co-founders, and today I'm joined by Bobby.
Hi, I'm Bobby. I'm a senior social media manager at The Social Shepherd.
Lovely. Cool, so today Bobby and I are going to chat about one of the most common excuses that you'll hear in social media marketing, and it is... To be fair, sometimes it is a valid excuse, I'm not going to lie. But I think sometimes people deep it a bit too much. And that is kind of like, you know, the default when something hasn't performed is, oh, we'll just blame it on the algorithm.
Yeah, blame it on the algorithm. Classic excuse. I've used it many times, but
when it's actually valid, you know, like there will be times, you know, if we're doing like planning ahead of time, like... there was a massive change the other week with the UMG stuff, for example. Now, obviously, that isn't an algorithm change; that's a contractual change. But the impact, it had an impact on the algorithm because of the triggers that were coming out of it, basically. So it is a valid excuse at times, but overused, I would suggest.
It is, yeah. I mean, I think what the reality of saying blame it on the algorithm is actually can be a cop out because you've not actually worked out what's wrong with your content.
Yeah, I mean,
rather than looking at like, oh, it actually was the algorithm.
Yeah, you can. The thing is, if you can blame it on the algorithm, but you have to have what in your content wasn't aligned with what the algorithm needed at that time. Yeah. So provided that you're giving more context, so you can't just go, algorithm, I'm done. I'm not looking into this any further.
Yeah, that's the mistake people make for sure.
For sure, you need to be like a little detective.
Yes.
Cool. So today we're actually going to answer some questions. We've got a little new system going. So we have looked up the most commonly asked questions when it comes to the Instagram algorithm. And I'm going to ask Bobby them and we're going to have a chat through with them. So when you type in Instagram algorithm, the first thing that comes up is there an Instagram algorithm?
Yes. Surprise.
Shock horror. I'm just going to put these down here. I will pick them up afterwards.
Yeah, there definitely is an Instagram algorithm. There's an algorithm on any social media platform. Algorithm is just a piece of code. All it means is...
It's like rules. It's like if you're setting up any type of like operational like automation, you'll have like if this does this type of thing. It's like...
For sure.
Rules.
It's rules that literally break down why something should be shown and what's shown first. Any piece of coding is a set of rules and it just follows that same principle.
It basically defines what you see and when you see it, basically. And
absolutely.
So if you can understand it, then your content's going to perform better because you're going to be making it with that in mind, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. And they're all different across different platforms too. So there's one specifically for Instagram. Well, there's two for Instagram. And then you've got one for TikTok. All platforms have their own ones. They change really regularly, but there absolutely is an algorithm and you need to hack all your content to try and make sure that you are shown at the top of those feeds. And that's the trick and that's the struggle people have.
And I think that's an important point that you raised there, is that there can be and are multiple algorithms per platform. So like the Reels feed has a different algorithm to the Stories algorithm to the feed. Like, do you know what I mean? It's all very different. So just being aware of that and mindful is super, super important. Next one we've got is, does the algorithm change?
Yes,
it does. But some platforms are more honest about those changes than others. Yeah. Like, I'm gonna mess up the pronunciation of his name, but like Adam Mosseri from Instagram is very like open about the algorithm. Well, as open as they're allowed to be, basically, and other platforms aren't. And I actually think a good point to raise is people get really confused between the algorithm and like data protection as well. And I don't know why that is, because they are completely different things on the platforms. But there's certain things that they can be more open about than others.
For sure. I mean, each platform does guard a lot of information about the algorithm. I mean, I guess it's in their interest. Platforms like TikTok, you know, they rose really quickly as a platform and have had so much success. So they've guarded the algorithm for a while and won't give away so much information about it, because otherwise another platform's just going to be able to really quickly jump on it and copy. They do it anyway, but it takes them longer.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that if they just gave you like, do this and your content will succeed, then how can anyone be better? Do you know what I mean? Like there needs to be some level of, they do put like best practice guides out there, but we've talked about this many times, but best practice is boring. Okay. Like, you know, do your own research, like test and learn. And like, if I could give anyone the biggest tip out there, particularly for organic social, you know, it is a search engine these days, which means that you've got an even better opportunity for testing and learning.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I guess in short, it does change.
It does.
But just be inquisitive and change with it.
Yeah, and it should change. I think if you think about user experience on the platform as a user, you want to have new stuff. Newness is super important and exciting on social. So you want it to keep changing and to be able to see new content, discover new things. Like that's what you're after. So if it didn't change, you'd end up finding the same people at the top because they'll hack the algorithm, realize how do I get to the top? And then you'll open the app and it'll be the same person every time.
Exactly.
And that from a user's point of view, you don't want that.
There needs to be a level of discoverability. And I think like, yeah, it's just, it has to change and it does change and just get on board with it.
Yeah.
Is Instagram's algorithm getting worse? So define worse.
Yeah, define
like,
worse.
It's an algorithm. How can it's code? How can it be better or worse? Worse for who?
For sure.
Yeah.
I think, to be fair, a lot of people, there was discussion around, the algorithm's like not showing my content of a while ago.
Yeah.
And there was this massive shift, and that was changing from chronological feeds into like user affinity and prioritizing content. That massive shift, I think, caused a lot of people to say the algorithm's getting worse. My content's not getting seen by people.
Yeah.
And it's kind of been something that's just carried on as a bit of a theme in terms of the algorithm's worse and worse. But I think that is completely subjective. As a user, lots of people prefer.
It depends how you're looking at it. If you're talking it from like your content reaching people, yes, the platforms are more saturated and therefore less people, you're gonna have to work harder to reach the same amount of views. But I think the other thing to bear in mind with this one is if we talk about the algorithm getting worse in the context of you not seeing your friends' posts and you not seeing this, the way that people have started using social is completely different. If we take Instagram, for an example, people post less on feed and more on stories now.
Yeah.
So you might go, I'm not seeing my friends' content. Well, they're not posting as much as they used to. So it's kind of, again, stop blaming the algorithm. We also need to look at consumer behavior here and how it's kind of happening. And also, as platforms become more saturated, you're going to have to fight harder to reach those people. So I guess my question is, I'm surprised that's in the top 3 because I don't even think the sentence makes sense, to be entirely honest. Like, give me some context here. I think it's just changing.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say and as it changes, there's also other opportunities to reach people in.
For sure.
So, yeah.
I mean, you've got to remember social as a landscape just is always changing. Yeah. And that makes it exciting.
Because we as consumers and what we want to see is consistently changing.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Expect change.
Yeah, expect change. And I don't really know what to say to that one. I think it's harder. I think that's what we could say. It's harder.
Yeah.
You know, and that it is the same thing is happening with TikTok as it happened with Instagram. Like, where as it gets more saturated, you've got to work harder. But like, if you're a marketer, that should be fine. You just got to do your job better.
There'll be a new platform at some point anyway.
Be.
So
cool. What helps the algorithm? Right, Bobby, tell us all.
Yeah, okay. So I've got some notes on actually what consists of the algorithm and what rules it's looking to define. So there's 2 algorithms for Instagram. You've got a feed algorithm and a Reels algorithm. So that's like the predominant difference. And there are different rules between each one. So if you're looking at feed, it's information about a post. Yeah. So that'll be things like, has it got a location tag? Is it in the right dimensions? What engagement has it got on the post? That tells the algorithm information about it, and therefore that's considered when prioritizing. You've also got information about the person who posted. So that's like the cadence of how regularly that person's posting, how many users have interacted with them, that kind of thing.
And I think that's also like for visibility, that's where like your keywords do need to come into play. Like I'm planning a wedding at the minute and my explore page is just wedding content, for example, because they're using terms like bridal that have like a high affinity with that topic.
Yes, for sure.
That is important, but I guess it's part of the algorithm conversation, but it's also just part of content optimization.
Definitely. I mean, number 3 for the feed is your activity too. So how you engage. Do you interact on other people's posts? Do you search for things? Do you
are you feeding the algorithm to tell it what you want to see as well?
Precisely. So
it's
that
like whenever
is important.
You first open an account, your explore page won't really have anything that's actually of interest to you, and it gets more, it learns more as you put more into it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it just kind of emphasizes importance of things like community management when operating as a business too, like engaging with other users. It's all a really valuable part of making sure your content's seen. So yeah, that's a key factor for feed. And then the last point that they've released that we know about that the algorithm consists of is your history of interacting with someone too. So whether you're in someone's close friends or you're searching for them or you follow each other, that kind of thing. Do you always like their post, etc.? That's why you might start seeing your friends at the top of your feeds all the time. So yeah, that's feed. If we look at Reels, there's another 4 aspects to the algorithm that they've released. So the first, again, is relationships. So how you're interacting, are you searching and who you follow? The second point is relevance of content. So that really is content affinity. As you said, like if you always like fashion content, then fashion content's going to be what gets served to you. If you like food, then the same thing happens. So that's relevance of content. You've also got timeliness for the Reels. That's quite interesting. That doesn't necessarily mean when you're posting, but it's how new is the content. So something new is potentially going to get prioritized, or it's certainly going to behave differently. Again, the algorithm doesn't tell you, oh, do these things and you'll be prioritized, but it's something it considers when it's deciding ranking. The last point, funnily enough, is popularity of content. So this is stuff that, a lot of people will say, how do you get all these likes on Instagram and stuff? And it is harder to do that on Instagram than on other platforms like TikTok. And that's because of this last point, popularity of content. So that's like, means it's literally looking at whether a piece of content is popular and decides whether to push that out. So it's really hard to get that, because if you don't have...
It's like chicken and egg.
It's a chicken and egg situation, yeah. If you don't have loads of engagement on it, then how do you get more engagement?
Just make the content better.
Well, literally.
it's like lean on your other signals to then push it out to more people. And I guess that's where like things like engagement rate come in, because you could, like, if you could reach a whole load of people, but no one's engaging with it. Like, okay, yes, you may have some of your algorithmic signals there, but then you're not going to hit that popularity signal because there's no engagement there.
Yeah, exactly. And I think looking at Instagram specifically, this really highlights the importance of history and long-term strategies on Instagram, because so many of those signals that I've mentioned are about your history of reacting and how you engage and things like that, what you're searching for, how many engagements you get on your posts. So it has to be looked at a long-term strategy there. You're not going to find on Instagram one post just blows up because for some magical reason. It's about like consistency, it needs to be like a long-term and build. Consistent. Yeah, like, precisely.
I think one thing people really forget about is like being active on the brand account as if the brand was a person. Yeah. So like, are you like be firstly communicate with your audience, talk to them, not at them, and communicate with them. But equally, like, you know, spend time on that account researching relevant search terms and use the account for your content inspiration. Like, just give it as much juice basically to be able to like drive and like push stuff, and that is going to help your content too. Yeah, so exactly. I think just put some energy into it. Cool. Can I reset the Instagram algorithm?
Well, no.
Short answer. unless you work at Meta and you're on that team, then no.
Exactly. Funnily enough, you can kind of do it for TikTok. They do have like a reset For You page thing. It's not resetting the algorithm necessarily, but it's removing some of your preferences.
Yeah, so from like a viewership perspective, you can...
Yes.
I guess, okay, so there's two ways to look at that. So there's from a, I'm pushing stuff out and no one's seeing it. Can I change this? No, you need to work within what the algorithm says. But if your own feed, like for example, one of my friends the other day, I keep sending them like just pictures of like cute animals.
Yeah.
They're like, stop sending me pictures of animals because now you've made my For You page is just pictures of animals and I don't want to see that. So they're like, you can't tell me those anymore.
Yeah.
So you can give the triggers basically, but it's easier to do on TikTok, like you said.
Exactly. Yeah. Whereas Instagram, there's no magical reset button, unfortunately. So yeah.
Fabulous. Does the Instagram algorithm favor Reels?
So, I mean, we spoke to our Meta reps about this to see. They did mention that at the moment they are prioritizing video content. Take from that what you will.
Yeah.
I think with a massive pinch of salt too, because as we said, they don't actually disclose a lot of information. I would say consider it as two separate things, feed and reels.
Yeah.
They are two separate algorithms and they are going to act differently. So does it prioritize reels?
I guess the thing is the reels also do come up in your feed as well. So I guess in the sense of you've kind of got two options for visibility there. Not every single reel is going to come up in feed as well. That's just really worth managing expectations there. But I mean, I guess if at Meta they are saying we are prioritizing video, then in theory, yes.
Yeah.
But I think you would be better to test and learn and pick formats that are performing best with your audience.
And it's also important to remember it's a mixed media platform. So there should be a balance to it. So you might upweight video content, for example, but you shouldn't just do videos because you need to keep that range in there. As we said, newness is super important. So actually just try anything, like try new things, experiment. And that's going to potentially lead you to a really good piece of content.
Nice. How does Instagram's algorithm work in 2024? We've kind of been through that, to be fair.
I think we've covered that one.
I think the one thing I would say to people is like, as much as you can try and hack an algorithm, get reach, if your content is boring, your content's boring, it's not going to work.
For sure, yeah.
Like I think sometimes people deep it a bit too much with the algorithm. Yes, like we are really technical in our approach to organic social and stuff like that, but you can't hack the algorithm to like cheat boring content. Like if it's boring, it's boring. No, you're not going to hit your algorithmic triggers.
Absolutely. Content and what that is has to be the center and the primary focus, and then everything else can just set it up for the best chance of success rather than that being the primary focus. So look at what you've got to work with, make amazing content and set it up to be delivered in a great way on the algorithm, and that's how you're going to get content success.
And like have fun. Like in now's day and age, like people, social, particularly your platforms like TikTok, but Instagram's also moving in this way too. Like they're entertainment platforms, like tell stories, like you know, understand how the consumer brain is currently working, like what people are wanting to see and stuff like that. You know, I think more and more we need to start looking at social as a way to get across our key messages, and it really is at the forefront. Like that is where particularly younger generations' attention is over your more traditional mediums such as like TV and stuff like that. So just make good content and engage with your audience.
Exactly.
On that note, I'm just trying to look, because we did speak to Meta about this. So just having a look at this, I mean, I think all the Meta can't really give like solid answers on things. So a lot of the stuff that we've given is based on findings that we've had across clients and stuff like that. But they're, you know, for example, in the final question, Instagram, how does Instagram algorithms work in 2024? There's no exact answer to this one. You can leverage all of the information mentioned to give you an idea of how it works. And I guess that kind of also speaks to us about how much information they're willing to give away about it. So I think the core takeaway is just don't make boring content and be smart. And research and test and learn.
And don't get hung up on the algorithm. Like it's there to make it a really good user experience for the people you're trying to reach. So You're never going to be shown all the time, and you shouldn't be, because they'll get really bored of you.
Yeah, exactly.
So just make great content and let it do its thing.
And stop using the word algorithm as a weapon, please and thank you. Cool. All right. Well, that's everything for today. Thank you so much for listening, and make sure to like, subscribe, whichever platform you are looking at this on. But thanks.